We're paying players now. This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome into another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel. I am your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. We are right at the midst, in the belly of the beast of the Big 12 Media Days, and we're still sifting through all the answers. We're going to have some of the best bites from Dave Aranda, including the quote that went viral from Dave Aranda as well. And I encourage you, this is an exciting time of year to get caught up on all these teams going into the season. Like, we live for this kind of stuff. We really need it this time of year. So keep up to date with Big 12 stuff. I mean, we got Locked On Big 12 with Trey Toll, voice you all know, and all of our Big 12 schools, I believe, I'm pretty sure all of them, maybe not Colorado, have a Locked On show. So go check out some of those, get familiar with the Baylor opponents this year. But like I said, we're going to go through some of these media day answers, as well as a potential huge development in the recruiting trail, potentially humongous development there. But starting with the media days festivities out in Vegas, Baylor Bears were on the podium Wednesday, and before Dave Aranda got to the mass podium, he had already made headlines. There was a great quote that came out from it. It's good, honest Dave. But the question was something along the lines of, hey, Dave, you've got some good momentum in terms of transfer portal and recruiting wise. You know, obviously the big 4-star, Kamora Morgan last week. What's been the difference? Because we haven't seen that the last couple of years. And Dave Aranda gives the honest answer. He says, we started paying players. We did start paying players. And it's about time we started paying players. Welcome to 2024, Dave Aranda. Welcome to 2020's college football, baby. Good to have you. Good to have you. We've heard the last couple of months, really almost close to a year now, that Baylor football NIL is gaining momentum, and you're starting to see the roots of that. We might not see the flower in bloom for a couple of years, because you got to get these guys in. You still got to make sure you have the right coaching staff in place. And we're still wondering about that with Dave Aranda's record, but also a pretty new staff this year to see if they could develop this talent. But right now it looks like, Baylor is splashing the cash, and it's something that they've needed to do the last few years. I mean, when the NIL space first started, I think a lot of us were thinking Baylor can't compete there, right? It's small, Christian, private. It's not going to be able to compete. All the big schools are going to swallow everyone up. And Baylor and TCU and whatever, Stanford, Vanderbilt, even with some bigger endowments than Baylor and TCU, they can't survive. And I don't know that that's true anymore. I think we've matured in this process to know that that's not entirely true. Schools like Texas, Alabama, Michigan, Nebraska, A&M, they're always going to have more money than Baylor. They're always going to have more of a collective. They're always going to have a bigger alumni base. They're always going to have a bigger football stadium. They're always going to have more resources. But that doesn't mean that schools like Baylor can't compete. TCU got to a national championship game in the NIL era. They've struggled ever since, so maybe that's not a great example. But Duke got better in football in the NIL era than they were before. This is not impossible. It's really, really not. So for Georgia and Ohio State, it's always going to be there. But there's no reason that Baylor can't compete in a conference like the Big 12 just because other schools can make more money. If you handle it the right way, if you get your collective on the same page, and again, you have the coaching staff in place that has the eye for talent and can develop talent, there's no reason you can't compete, because you're going to have some money. That was the problem before. Baylor was really slow to getting into the money. And part of that was all the facilities they've built in the last decade, sure. But we were really teetering on seeing Baylor go towards Syracuse and their handling of NIL versus where you actually need to be to win. To use a Dave Aranda line, we're like somewhere here. We got to be here and meet here. How many times have you heard that? But no, it's about time. It's about time. And credit to Aranda in some respects for being transparent about that since the end of last year of, hey, we haven't been good enough. We haven't been good enough in the transfer portal. We haven't been good enough in NIL. And now we're working towards that. And I think the best example, two different sports, so not apples to apples, but a good example of what Baylor can do in the NIL space is men's basketball. Because we have been able to see, we haven't seen numbers and figures. We don't know what these kids are getting paid, but we have seen what NIL can do for basketball as a product on the court. You're getting these top 10, top 20, top 30 recruits every year. They're choosing you over Texas. In the case of Eve Misi, you're taking transfers from conference rivals that were like starting. Jalen Bridges, you not only got him here, but then kept him a second year after testing the NBA waters. I don't care where he was selected or, slotted to get picked last year. That takes money to bring a guy like that back. And now you got two blue chip guys out of the transfer portal this year, two guys who were all ACC guys who played in the Final Four, Jeremy Roach and Norchad Omier. Those guys cost money. And Scott Drew and his staff have been able to handle that and have gotten it right. So all that to say, it's not Baylor can't live in this space. If they don't have the right coach or the right coaching staff that doesn't have the right eye for talent, then that's one thing. But this is essentially a whole new staff here. They have good momentum in this recruiting class. I wouldn't say this is an all-world recruiting class, but it's getting good momentum, and you got some guys out of the portal this year. Guys who were group of 5 stars who are going to slot in and be starters for you. Those cost money. And the fact that Baylor's gotten them is showing me that at the bare minimum, the sick'em bare minimum, that they're doing it. They're on board with this. We don't know what the results are going to be yet. That's the next phase. And we really probably won't know the full extent of how the NIL is doing in terms of on-the-field product for like 2 or 3 years, if we're being honest. But right now, it's a step in the right direction. And the fact that Dave Aranda is open about this is a positive for Baylor. We're not running and hiding and saying, oh, this is not the way college football should be. Our NIL is naming the Lord or whatever Dabo says. Like, no, this is the sport now. And it has been a slow turn towards what it needs to be, but Baylor's on that path, finally. And you get a viral quote out of it. We're paying players now. That's the difference. I think there are a lot of great things that Baylor can offer to not only a student, but to a student athlete in the football program, specifically in this case, that go beyond money. I think there are some great things about Baylor that you can't get at other schools. But they're all offering money now. Think about it in your job. There are some jobs that you're like, man, I do wish I could do that. That could be a lot of fun. And I encourage you to reach for your dreams, but you need to get paid. But I also would like this job, and they're going to pay me real money. I don't love it like I love this other one, but I like it and I get money from it. That's college football now. Whether you like it or not, that's what it is. And to hear that Baylor is at least being upfront about this is quietly reassuring. And one place I love spending my NIL money is FanDuel, which is a proud sponsor of today's video, because you guys know I love sports. I talk about it every day. I love it. I love watching it. I love reacting to it. I love all of it. But here in the summer, it's gotten pretty slow. I'm not getting all the sports I want to. I'm having a tough time getting my fix. But all I need to do is go to my friends at FanDuel to make any sport that's going on right now more interesting, because this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There is something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. Again, that's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Also at Media Days, we did get to hear more from Dave Aranda, actually, in a one-on-one with John Morris, my colleague at ESPN Central Texas. He spoke with Dave earlier in the afternoon, and this is what we've been waiting for. You know, we have a fix that we need. We have an itch that needs scratching. It's called college football. By the way, you can do that here all the time, your team every day, also through Locked On College Football Show, which we have every week, thrice weekly in the summer, and 5 days a week throughout the rest of the year. Spencer McLaughlin does a great job with that. I've been on him with a few times in the offseason. But anyway, we did hear from Dave Aranda. And one of the things that John Morris asked him about was, hey, we got a quarterback battle here. Remember? Pick between two quarterbacks, Sawyer Robertson, DeQuan Finn. Both are guys who have transferred into the program within the last year. And I think a lot of us, myself included, thought we would hear after spring camp because, you know, you've had Sawyer in the system for a year. Now it's a new system, so I guess there's that. And DeQuan Finn is a veteran guy who has won a conference player of the year in the MAC. So I thought, of course, it's going to be DeQuan, and we're going to hear it after the spring finale. Not the spring game, the spring finale. And we didn't. And John asked Dave Aranda about that and when we might be able to hear who that starting quarterback is going to be.
Quarterback position came through the spring, looked like good competition between those guys. It's good to have more than one good quarterback, isn't it?
Yeah, there's really good competition. I felt at the end of spring, as a man, could we have 2 more weeks? Could we have 2 more weeks of spring? And we just, we didn't have it. And so that's the reason for the continuation. And, I think so. It's even though we started right away with ball, with like DeQuan, for example, there's so much just the transition of coming from one thing to another thing, right? Whether it's school, whether it's offense. And so, Sawyer went through some of that the previous year. And so just to give him a longer runway to where we can really see, and you're talking about all the summer install, and there's not really a lot of competition going on there. Offense versus defense, just a lot of learning time. And so I think that puts us in our best position to have a real effective fall camp, and then we'll make the decision then.
Very good.
Sorry, guys. I do wish that was going to be the soundbite that said, hey, here's who our starting quarterback is, but it's not. And there's a lot of different ways we could look at this answer from Dave Aranda. And that's my job, is to parse through all the different ways and to give you the different ways we can interpret this. Because he said, I wish we had 2 more weeks. Wish we had 2 more weeks of spring practice. Then I would have really had an answer. Now, I'm going to look at it the pessimistic way first. That would worry me. Because I thought DeQuan Finn is the guy. This is why you brought him in. This is the guy you paid. You're paying players now. This is the guy you paid to come here. And he's achieved a lot at the group of 5 level. He's won conference championship. He's won conference player of the year. He has been a terrific starter for 3 years. He had a lot of Big Ten schools going after him in his native area in the upper Midwest, and he came to Baylor. So through whatever, a month or 2 of spring football, you don't know who the quarterback is. You just watch them all this time and you still don't know. That's frightening. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. How often have you heard that? You've heard that from the Craig Morton, Roger Staubach days 50 years ago. Earl Morrall, Johnny Unitas. They couldn't win a Super Bowl against the Jets because they didn't have a quarterback. They had 2 quarterbacks. That's the pessimistic way of looking at it. There is an optimistic way of looking at it. And that is, and it's something I've said throughout this offseason as well. That optimistic view is if Sawyer Robertson is going to win the job from DeQuan Finn, then he has truly done just that. He has won the job. Because we've seen DeQuan Finn at the Division I level We know what he's capable of and what he's done. We know his body of work. So if Sawyer Robertson is all of a sudden the starter against Tarleton State week 1, that means he went in there and he took it. He took the torch. He took the job from DeQuan Finn. Right? Like that's what it would mean. I mean, there are some times where there are quarterback battles where a guy probably lost it. I think back to my NFL team, the Patriots. Cam Newton versus Mac Jones, as a rookie Mac Jones, won the job. Cam Newton sucked the year before. He probably lost the job. But what we've seen from DeQuan Finn, and it has been no slowdown, that would mean Sawyer Robertson has won the job. And I wouldn't be terribly stunned if that happened. I'd be surprised, but not terribly stunned. Splitting hairs there. Sawyer Robertson was not a wide zone quarterback. He was a run and shoot kind of quarterback, a Hal Mummy style quarterback, which was a Mike Leach style quarterback. He played that in high school, and then he got recruited out of Lubbock Estacado as, recruited by Mike Leach. That makes sense. He's played in the system his formative years. Then he comes to Baylor in a wide zone offense. And I got to admit, when I first saw that, I was like, huh? I love the prospect, but huh? And it was an adjustment, man. That's like learning a new language. And you saw the struggles of it early on. But by the last game against West Virginia, again, in that same wide zone offense, he'd picked it up. He looked a lot better. You know, it was 2 months between him playing games, but he looked a lot better. Looked a lot better than what he did against UT or Utah. And think of that confidence he was able to grow in last year. And then, oh boy, change of pace, change of offense. But it's just like the meme, the kombucha meme, where she's like, maybe. Because it's like, new offense. Ugh, yuck, don't like that. Oh, but it's the one I've been playing my whole life? Sick, I'm in. This could be Sawyer Robertson's moment because of that door opening that he's actually able to play in the style of offense that he's used to. That could be the case. And that's the optimistic look at things if Sawyer Robertson wins it. If DeQuan Finn wins it, the optimistic way of looking at it is he's well-adjusted now. He's got it. I will admit, the way I think about it, I still think DeQuan Finn is your starter. I have not backed off that. Obviously we didn't get to see a full spring game. We didn't really get to see the practices that much, so we don't know what that competition looked like on the field. But what we know from their body of work, DeQuan Finn is your starting quarterback. If this, drags out to the week of the Tarleton game and then you announce DeQuan Finn, I might be a little skeptical. I'm not going to lie. Because then I'm like, how close was this? This reminds me of the old, I can't remember what coach it is now, but they asked him who was going to be the starter week 1. And he said, what time's the kickoff? That's what we're looking at potentially for Baylor. They'll get back out on the field in the beginning of August. So whatever, 3-4 weeks from now. And we might not know till the week of that August 31st. Because at that point, if you're Dave Aranda, why announce it on August 17th or August 15th when you could do it on August 28th? Those guys in the huddle will probably know who it is. We in the media don't need to know who it is. But it does feel like a battle hearing that rather than just the foregone conclusion that it was DeQuan Finn and that he didn't want to name it yet. So I'm still rolling with DeQuan Finn. I do want to hear what you guys have to say. I'd love it if you drop that down in the comments below or tweet it at us at Locked On Baylor on Twitter or in the YouTube comments or tweet at us. Let me know who you think it's going to be, why, and what is the scenario of that would make you worry. Is it we don't announce that it's DeQuan Finn till the week of the game? Is it you get worried if we announce Sawyer Robertson right away? I'd love to hear that. Drop that down in the comments below because the talent that's coming in the future, potentially catching passes from Sawyer Robertson, is something that is really tickling my brain this week. I did not see this one coming, and it's more or less coming. So we've talked about the recruiting trail all summer long. and you've been listening. You've been making it your first listen every day. I really appreciate that. My everydayers out there, I know a lot of you. You're in the comment section. You're retweeting. I really appreciate that. All the support is very much appreciated. You've been following along with us, with myself and with Will Turboff and the many characters who have committed to play for the Baylor Bears. Supporting cast of Dallas Baker and Keenan Hall, and maybe even a little cameo from Dave Aranda in there. This has been one big show to put together this 2025 recruiting class, and it's not done yet. It's winding down for sure. Like, we just went through the full official visit season, and these guys want to get that commitment going before they head into their senior year. And it's like a great 4th of July fireworks party. The finale was awesome. You got Camoran Morgan, the 4-star. Well, I'm still trying to figure out that first name. I've heard Camoran, I've heard Camorian, I've heard Cameron. It's a pretty cool way to spell Cameron. I'm gonna give him that. We're gonna get him on the show, I think, to find that out. But you get Camoran Morgan, your first 4-star in 2 years, at kind of the end of the cycle, or so it appeared, or the end of the summer cycle, probably. And he's at South Oak Cliff now. He played 2 years at Red Oak, terrific program up there, 6A. And he has a teammate out there at Red Oak who is a major prospect. You thought Camoran Morgan was a big prospect. How about the wide receiver Taz Williams, who is a composite 4-star, 247. He has offers from a couple of minor programs. Alabama, A&M, Penn State, Michigan, those kinds of teams are in for Taz Williams. This kid is so legit. And he was tweeting at Camoran Morgan before Morgan's commitment, and he said, "Where we going, twin?" And I was like, well, I think Camoran Morgan's committed to Baylor, and that's not high up on Taz Williams' list. And that's what ended up happening. Camoran Morgan committed to Baylor, and Taz Williams is set to make an announcement for his commitment on Monday. That's July the 13th. Am I getting that? No, that's not right. It's Monday. Anyway, that's the 15th. And he had a top 5 out there, and it did not have Baylor in it. It didn't. And I'm thinking, boy, what if, and I think I mentioned this on the show, what if Camoran Morgan could put it out there, get the feelers, be like, bro, we got to do this. We got to do this together. Why don't we go to team up? Like we've seen so much in college football over the last few years, college basketball as well, but probably not going to happen. Right. Well, maybe. As a young lady once said to me, maybe, okay? Because Grayson Grunhafer of Sikkim 365, their recruiting analyst, reporting on Tuesday that Taz Williams has scheduled an official visit to the Baylor Bears on July the 29th. Yes, that is after he's supposed to be committing, but an official visit. That means you want to take a look at the place. And at the end of this month, Taz Williams is going to be in Waco checking out the Baylor Bears. I said the Camoran Morgan commitment was a huge step for Baylor. To say it was huge was an understatement. And I was serious about that. I still am. Taz Williams would be an unbelievable pull. A next level, incredible steal. Where Baylor stands right now, if they're able to somehow steal a commitment from him somewhere during the season over an Alabama, A&M, Penn State, or Michigan, that is maybe your greatest recruiting win ever. Best since Jarrett Stidham was the number 2 quarterback in the country behind Kyler Murray, and you flipped him from Tech. This would be just like that. And I actually saw Taz Williams play live last year. I know you guys love my amateur scouting. I talked about this with Turboff, with Camoran Morgan. I saw him play at Lake Belton. I was going there to see Micah Hudson. And Taz Williams was going pound for pound with Micah Hudson in that game. He big play every time down. It was one of them making a big play, whoever had the ball. And he had a monster season, Taz Williams. He was kind of under the radar going into that. He only had 5 touchdowns as a sophomore, 582 yards receiving in 2022. But last year, as a junior, he went from 31 catches to 80, 582 yards to 1251, 5 touchdowns to 14. Again, 80 receptions for 1,251 yards and 14 touchdowns on just under 16 yards per catch. Big play receiver. These guys don't grow on trees. No matter what you might think that they do, they don't, to play at that level of high school football in this great state and put up those kinds of numbers. Taz Williams is the real deal. And you saw the coaches with the little cyclone thing, Tasmanian Devil. They think they have a shot. Is it a long shot? Yes. But they think they have a shot. And I said it earlier in the show, it's not the best recruiting class they've ever had, but there's undoubtedly, there's no doubt been a ton of momentum in this recruiting class, not just with this, high school kids in 25, but the transfer portal too, and this new coaching staff. And I think Keenan Hall can recruit anybody. So get him in Taz Williams' living room, or have him greet Taz and family when they come down to Waco. Official visit is serious. So he might commit to someone in the next few days here. And you need to always take it with a grain of salt, just like with Baylor's own recruits. There's a lot of time between now and National Signing Day, and it usually does not benefit Baylor. This could. And oh boy, am I excited to see how that plays out. We're going to have some more for Media Day next week and get some of the great sounds in there for you. Be sure to drop down in the comments below what you think about this recruiting class momentum, what you thought about Dave's comments about paying players now. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great. And once again, who's going to win this quarterback battle? Who is going to be under center, or better yet, in the shotgun when they take on the Tarleton Texans at the end of August? Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. I really do appreciate it. Drop a comment, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. You'll get notified every time we drop a video on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back with you in a flash on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.